Have you noticed how those who truly rule a room never need to explain themselves? The ones in control are never always there, never on standby, never eager to please. Social psychology calls it scarcity. Anything rare draws more attention and becomes valuable, even if it does nothing extraordinary. Diogenes figured this out ages ago. He'd vanish, ignore those seeking answers, and treat his presence like a luxury item. Science shows our brains crave novelty and hate predictability. Whatever isn't always within reach triggers desire, sparks curiosity, lights up pleasure circuits. Scarcity stimulates dopamine. Absence creates suspense. Being unavailable is playing chess in relationships, making others move without lifting a finger. The digital age flipped everything. If you're always visible, you're just another face on the timeline. Here's the cruel paradox. To be seen, you have to know how to disappear. Diogenes knew. He was only remembered when he was missing, when he left emperors on red, when he refused to explain himself. No magic, just social biology. Whoever vanishes becomes a mystery, and mysteries never go out of style. Society tries to sell constant presence as a virtue, but neuroscience exposes the truth. Overexposure kills impact, repetition becomes noise, and endless availability turns respect into indifference. The most valued social animal is always the hardest to find. No coincidence, but self-protection and the privilege of choice. We're raised to believe that only those present are loved, only those always ready are trustworthy, that being useful is a moral duty. The problem is, behavioral science proves the opposite. The more you give yourself away, the more invisible you become. Each automatic reply just cements your role as a tool, not a person. The anxiety for acceptance activates the brain's survival circuits, creating emotional dependence eager to serve without question. Diogenes ridiculed the hunger for approval, showing that voluntary servitude is the worst kind of slavery. Psychology calls this self-nullification. A person dissolves to fit into others' desires, eventually forgetting their own shape. What once was a virtue becomes an illness. The need to be accepted infects everything, making you anticipate others' wishes before even knowing your own. Neurologically, this routine of answering, favor-doing, and micro-obedience triggers a cortisol loop, kills any sense of autonomy, and installs the silent wear and tear of social burnout. The body cannot survive in a state of perpetual readiness. The reward system freezes, energy evaporates, willpower disappears, and all that's left is the shell of the nice guy. In the end, too much presence devalues presence. Here's the paradox. The more you offer yourself, the more forgettable you become. The harder you try to please, the less people can see you. Value gets lost, respect dissolves, and all that remains is the anxious wait for something that never returns. Every yes uttered out of fear of conflict is a piece of your identity handed over to the marketplace of approval. Clinical psychology has mapped it. Self-abandonment doesn't happen all at once, but in daily microdoses, like paying eternal interest on a loan you never asked for. The body feels it. Muscle tension, chronic fatigue, restless sleep, while the mind loops guilt for never being enough, never doing enough. Diogenes saw this as the pathology of conformity. The more you bend, the more you get used to the ground. Respect isn't born from usefulness, but from refusing to be needed all the time. Neuroscience explains that the endless chase for validation triggers a cycle of frustration, short-term dopamine, long-term regret, a deep emptiness that no message ever fills. Modernity sells usefulness as social capital, but what you get is an army of the exhausted begging for crumbs of attention. Whoever never disappears is seen as emotional furniture, never as someone rare. Overexposure doesn't build intimacy, it breeds indifference. You become the on-call lifeguard, the support line for everyone but yourself. In your struggle to never disappoint anyone, you become invisible, especially to those you try hardest to please. Carl Jung explained that the persona is the mask we wear to survive in society, but most people forget the face behind the role. When you get used to responding before even feeling, you become a prisoner to that mask, condemned to repeat the same performance until the audience loses interest. Deep psychology shows, the more you lie about who you are, the harder it gets to keep your sanity. Diogenes mocked anyone who tried to please everyone, including emperors. He never made concessions, not even to the greatest kings, because he knew respect is earned by confrontation, not servitude. Cynicism's authority is found in embracing the discomfort of not being loved by all, only by yourself. The more you adjust, the more you lose the strength of your own outline. Behavioral science confirms people with clear boundaries provoke discomfort, but also secret admiration. Everyone envies those unafraid to withdraw, to say no, to disappear. The harder you try to be perfect for others, the more you attract manipulation and contempt. The cost of the mask is always paid with your own essence. Self-deception fuels mediocrity. You live to maintain the fantasy of universal acceptance while suffocating your own need for autonomy. No one warns you that by pleasing everyone, you only earn the right to be forgotten faster. Human relationships are a stage for projections. Rarely do people see you, but rather the character they expect to see. Analytical psychology calls this projection. The other dumps their needs, expectations, and frustrations onto you, as if you were a blank canvas. When you accept the role without question, you become the set, the accessory, never the protagonist of your own story. Cynicism tears down this theater with scorn. Diogenes refused to be an extra in others' delusions, exposing the illusion of automatic reciprocity. Science shows that the always available become dumping grounds for emotional trash. Friends appear in crises and vanish during triumphs. Utility defines how long they stick around. Once your function is over, the relationship evaporates. Society expects you to fill others' voids without charging anything in return. The more predictable your responses, the more you feed others' cycles of dependency. Becoming predictable means losing your right to mystery and choice. Lose your mystery, and you become furniture, useful but forgettable. Being a supporting character in others' pain isn't altruism, it's existential anesthesia, a cowardly way of running from your own emptiness by numbing others. When you finally abandon the role of always being available, the system short-circuits. Social psychology calls this a pattern break. Those who used you as a crutch feel the ground vanish. Discomfort is instant. Defensiveness follows. Criticism, emotional blackmail, accusations that you've changed. But it's only desperation from those who lost the comfort of predictability. Diogenes never needed collective approval to exist, not even under imperial threats. The price of rarity is steep. Loneliness, accusations of selfishness, inevitable misunderstandings. Even so, neuroscience reveals the brain adapts. Initial rejection gives way to rebuilt self-esteem. The fear of losing bonds is replaced by respect that only appears when you set a boundary. Most prefer shallow ties to facing the silence after a no spoken with conviction. Clinical psychology says, learning to frustrate others' expectations is essential for maturity. Only those who can stand being rejected are seen in a different light, not as a resource, but as a mystery to be unraveled. Being called cold, distant, or difficult is the price you pay for no longer being just another product on the shelf. It's not revenge, it's survival. In a culture of excess, everyone rushes to fill every silence, as if emptiness were a crime. Behavioral psychology shows that silence is unsettling. Whoever doesn't react, doesn't explain, doesn't justify, forces others to deal with their own discomfort. Diogenes knew that stepping back rather than arguing left even emperors lost, unable to respond to the high-handed scorn of the barrel. Lack of response is a lethal weapon against manipulators. While they wait for your reaction, you return them only emptiness. The social brain panics in uncertainty because unpredictability removes control from those who thrive on automatic responses. Silence, far from cowardice, is survival strategy for those who refuse to be anyone's emotional toy. In the general noise, those who master their own silence are seen as threats or as examples, never as objects. Psychology shows that real influence lies in knowing when to speak, but even more in knowing when to withdraw. The social animal who controls its own noise is never ignored. It's feared, refusing to compete, leaving the stage, disappearing without explanation. This is the move of those who have learned that strength isn't about convincing. It's about not needing approval from any audience. When you step off the stage and withstand the discomfort of absence, you start to rediscover who you are without the makeup of usefulness. Individuation psychology states, only in silence and distance do the answers emerge that constant presence suffocates. Self-respect rises when solitude becomes a source, not a threat, and the world recalibrates to deal with your absence, not your excess. The ancient Cynics already knew, real power is being uncontrollable, impossible to tame. Whoever survives the initial void discovers a kind of peace impossible for the ever-present. Fragile relationships collapse. Real bonds survive. Self-esteem stops depending on others' hunger and is fed by your own choices, not by automatic concessions. Diogenes never sought approval. He sought freedom, even if that cost him general dislike. A new cycle begins when you allow yourself to be misunderstood, hated, ignored, but never tamed. Personality science confirms only those willing to lose for themselves what they never truly had from others can grow up. And without warning, absence becomes striking presence. Those who choose to be rare learn that respect begins when the fear of disappointing ends. Most people grovel for approval, offering themselves up just to be remembered, without realizing they've become doormats for the crowd. The cynical secret is simple. Only those who don't care about acceptance have value. Respect isn't born from an easy smile, but from refusal. The more you say no, the more people learn your presence isn't a supermarket freebie. Diogenes knew, to be free, just don't care about being hated. Modern psychology repeats, with less courage, what the ancient Cynics already shouted in the public square. Those who ration themselves are worth more. Every absence is a punch to others' routines. Every silence forces them to think, to question, to review how much they took you for granted. Relationships reveal themselves in absence, not in excess. Only the indispensable can vanish without becoming a ghost. The fear of disappointing is the herd's collar. With every justification, every forced presence, dignity circles the drain of the need to please. Those who live to be useful aren't alive, they're surviving. Preferring solitude over easy applause is an insult to herd logic. That's why it bothers. That's why it's confused with arrogance, coldness, insanity. Being rare isn't being unreachable. It's being selective, choosing where and to whom to appear. The most dangerous animal isn't the one who attacks, but the one who watches and only bites when it wants. Freedom isn't being accepted by everyone. It's being able to disappear whenever you wish, without apologizing or making excuses for your silence. If you still doubt, look around. How many keep begging for attention and stay irrelevant? Meanwhile, those who have the courage to vanish, to disappoint, to make others deal with their own emptiness, always return as exceptions, never as products. Diogenes taught laughing. Only those who never feared being despised are truly respected. Now that you understand that sucking up to the crowd only turns you into a punchline, do yourself a favor. Stop begging for likes, comments, and approval, unless you want to remain invisible even to the algorithm. If you had the guts to make it this far, prove you're not just another internet NPC. Write, "I'm rare, not a doormat," in the comments. If you found all this offensive, share this video with some chronic people-pleaser so they can get their act together too. Or just disappear from here. Because, in the end, only those who know how to make themselves missed really deserve to come back.